let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well, derp. Good morning back from, what is this, Wednesday? Yeah, hey, Wednesday. We're in Helsinki, Finland. Wishing you the best and the happiest, as always, starting this baby off because we got a shit ton to talk about today, and holy fucking moly, that's exactly what I was talking about. As soon as the trading week begins with the Americans back, and also just generally the world back in their major trading seats, the battle stations, what do you know? Bitcoin price action reverts back to exactly where it was last week when we left off. So this is exactly what I've been speaking about in the sense that weekend price action usually floaty, usually untrustworthy. Doesn't mean that you can't trade it, of course. You can certainly make a shit ton of money, and shout out to all the people who have been making a shit ton of money trading the weekend price action. But this is exactly what I've been speaking about, saying that any sort of reversal that does happen over a weekend, I'm very skeptical of. I've actually gone back and done a statistical analysis of it, and it's literally less than 10% of reversals that happen on weekends that get played through longer term. And actually, I don't even think that there's one scenario, or there might be one scenario, ever since CMEs have gone live. So this is exactly what I've been speaking about, and we'll follow up on this, of course, in just a bit here. But with all of that said, I'd like to wish you the best once again, because, well, more people need smiles on their face, myself included, after a little bit of volatile night myself. And let's get in a live scene right on over here and check out the Krown trading application, which is 100% free and found at app.krowntrading.net. Our present from us to you, or I mean, you're part of this community, so it's basically us to us, as it's community driven. And we have a lot of things to be aware of right here. Holy shit, fuck. This is insane, man. Open interest has gone up to almost 1.5 billion. That's billion with a B. 1.5 billion. Billion once again. And that is very interesting, because while Bitcoin did not break any major structures from yesterday to today, open interest has gone up, meaning that the big bad move that we've been looking for is very likely getting just even a few more degrees more intense and more proximal, which is going to line up exactly what we've been looking at on the 2-day volatility that we've been following up for the last few days. And that's going to start to line up with all sorts of dynamic momentum oscillators, which we'll get into in just a bit here. But I do want to put that on the board first. Keep that in mind when we talk about volatility a little bit later. On top of that, we see Bitcoin dominance more or less steady, hanging around that 62.5% mark, not really going up, not really going down, and fear and greed actually hanging around 50. I haven't really been covering that one as much. I think it kind of floats around. It's I think also because the way that it calculates the fear and greed, it actually just goes around to like different YouTube titles and also Twitter posts. And mine are and for the people who've been here for a while, you already know that my YouTube titles are almost never consistent with the content. Yesterday actually was. Yesterday's I think the title was somewhere around like, was it all a trap? That one was consistent, but for the most part, my clickbait titles are clickbait exactly as it is, just playing the YouTube game and having a little bit of fun with it as well, because everyone's talking about the inevitable or the imminent breakout today for $2,100,000,000 quadrillion. Doesn't even make sense, but doesn't need to make sense because it's fucking YouTube. Anyways, let's get into the price right now. As holy shit, man, what's up, Frank Fish and Dem? Good to meet you, man. Welcome to the cave. And what do we see right on over here on good old Bitcoin price action? Well, 12-hour closing right in the midst of that blue box territory. We actually got to see the initial move of this one happen during the Twitch stream last night. Super fun, and actually some live positions during that time. I did buy the retest of the blue box territory down here or around it at around 9650-ish region, and then we just floated our way upwards and onwards. Now, this wasn't so much a float as it was just a girthy green dildo being shoved in front of my face, but very nice nonetheless, and a very welcomed reprieve from this weekend absolute shatter of price action to the downside. So to kind of cover this up once again, yesterday I said I am not bearish as long as Bitcoin is above 9,600 macro. Short term, can flip flop around, day and night. That's completely fine. But as far as the macro goes, I am not bearish as long as we are above this blue box territory right here. 9,550 to 9,600 is where that encompasses. So as long as Bitcoin's closing at the very least 12-hour dildos above there, I look at that as a buying opportunity, exactly as I stated yesterday, and taking the position right around here, and then seeing it just kind of float upwards and onwards. We did hit the first major trigger area back above that 9830-ish target right here, and that's what initiated that next move towards about 10,000. That's at the time when I did sign off of Twitch. I actually took off most of my position at this point. I took off 2/3 in this region. I took off 1/3. Sorry, sorry, took off 1/3 right around about 9,900, then 2/3 average price somewhere a little bit above 10,000, and now holding on like a very, very small. Well, that would actually be all of it. So maybe I did it in fourths because I still have like about 1/4 running right now. Anyways, my point is that as it stands right now, the big areas to both the upside and the downside are now more geared in the favor of the upside, of course, as we do see this blue box territory coming in right around 10,200, also synonymous with the gap fill on CMEs coming in that exactly that same region, blue box territory, getting it absolutely perfectly and providing that first little impetus for a pullback off that region. Now, I'm not necessarily, now that first pullback is incredibly, it's just your stock standard response typically when approaching gaps like this. What happens next is going to be very indicative of where this market is going to be going. And I would say that if we do stick around here on CME chart for just another second longer, I would extend my bullishness in the short, medium, and higher timeframes as long as we remain above this pivot right here, which is right below about 10,000 bucks on CMEs, and CMEs are trading about a $50 to $60 price premium with regards to spot. So let me actually just see where that same area would kind of rely on spot, and yeah, it'd be right around here, right around about 99.50. So I do think that Bitcoin can come back down and test it. That's completely fine. No major issues with that. But as long as we're above it, I am looking for this price action to just slowly but surely kind of grind its way up. Now, if we did break back down below it, it is not a death sentence. The only death sentence that I see on this price action chart is back below 9,600 right on over here. And, to be directly clear, of course, it can go level by level here, but that doesn't really speak towards anything other than just a short-term price action. The macro areas are very, very clearly defined, anywhere above about 10,400 to the upside and anywhere below about 9,600 to the downside. Anywhere within this region right here, we can kind of ebb and flow the biases for the next piece of price action, but ultimately, it's just short-term price action. So looking at our low time frame momentum oscillators, we actually do see them all kind of ticking back up. 4-hour Stokes already up there. 3-hour Stokes going to be certainly tired as well. 2-hour Stokes doing the same thing. Hourly Stokes coming down a little bit. Going to be meeting a trend line here as well, though, to be fair. So I do think that we're probably going to see a little bit more of a pullback off based off this region, and likely come back down. Well, at the very least, well. The more that I look at it, the more and more that I don't think that that's what's going on here. You know what? Looking at this just naked chart, remember this falling pizza that we had in yesterday. This guy right in over here is valid as long as we remain above, about 10,000 bucks. Okay, so it is about the same thing as CMEs. Now, if we did break 10,000 bucks, like I said, it's not necessarily a death sentence, but it would imply that we're going to come back down and test around like 97.50-ish region, anywhere in this pocket down around here. Let me just kind of make a nice little liquid zone territory. Something like this is where I'd be looking towards if we actually did break back down below it. But we have a bunch of different things going on right here. So let me grab another fresh chart because we spoke about this a little bit yesterday. So there was there was a regular head and shoulders on the charts as of yesterday coming into the day, right? We had left shoulder, kind of a double head right here, and a right shoulder right on over here. And you actually did break down below the neckline on a fucking weekend, of course, or a holiday weekend at least. And what happens after that? Bitcoin came down to the next level, 9,600-ish region, but we failed to break. And more importantly, once that happened, the proverbial neckline of this head and shoulders was broken back up to the upside relatively fast after that, and we actually saw that yesterday during the video. We alluded to it, and this is just a great interlude into just a swing failure pattern. Essentially, whenever you see a failed breakdown or breakout, it can come both ways, of course. But whenever you see a failed breakout that basically fails to get continuation, and in this case, you would have expected a price action probably back down to like 9,200 based off this formation right here. Getting back above the neckline was a clear and obvious signal that we're not going to be doing that, and the real direction is to the upside. And more importantly, you can expect a rather violent move to the upside, which is exactly what we got last night. So where do we go from this area right now? Like I said, I don't really have a super strong opinion on this as on this formation. Technically, we do have a falling wedge in place, but the same sort of logic applies. So we just saw a bearish swing failure pattern, it was a bearish pattern that that essentially failed. But now we're actually seeing a bullish pattern right over here, a falling wedge being resolved to the upside. But what's happening is that we are actually coming back down to test the breakout point. That's completely fine. Breaking back down below it though would result in very likely the same thing that we saw yesterday. So I would say that $10,000 region is important for the short and medium timeframes, because if we do break it back down to the downside, I would expect price action to come back down to the blue box territory between about 9,700 and 9,750-ish region, something like that. Not too married to those numbers, but anywhere around the lower echelon of this region. Now, if we did break down below that, still 9,600, 9,550 is where I'd be keeping like my long-term kind of macro areas eyes on. But for right now, Bitcoin's come back down and retested it, and so far had a pretty damn good reaction off of it, which I do like. Anyways, more important with this, let me just see what's going on running over here. God damn, man. Anyways, always a crazy time in my Discord messages. But as this one stands right now, we do have a falling wedge being resolved to the upside. And where would the price target actually be marking us to? About 10,700. So I'm going to mark this area off right and over here. And I would say that I would actually extend this to about 10,900 to 11,000. I don't really see 10,700 as like a super interesting area for any other reason besides that measure move. Just kind of going back in time here. Yeah, the next major area that it looks like to me is really going to be around about 10,900 to 11,000, which I do think will be essentially targeted as soon as Bitcoin breaks the prior high of about 10,500, 10,550, depending upon which exchange that you're looking at. And yes, I do think that not only is 10,007 in the cards, but realistically 10,900 to 11,000 is where I think Bitcoin would find its next like short-term top, very, 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 very likely. I do want to point this out as well. A lot of people talking about this, although I don't think it's all that important, but wrong thingy. But we do have the golden cross confirmed on simple moving averages. Now, of course, I use exponentials, or I put a lot more emphasis on exponential moving averages. But what do you see right on over here? That's the green 50, that's the white 200, and we officially have the golden cross going on. The thing is, and what I should have noticed, and this was totally 100% my bad and very embarrassing to miss, but this is essentially just my my inability or sometimes stubbornness to look at simple moving averages, which do matter. But more importantly, the blue 30 simple moving average right here, that was the key critical ingredient. Anytime it used to be one of my big rules in traditional markets that anytime I see kind of like a long-standing uptrend, especially on a daily, I will buy that first test down to the 30 simple, and almost always it's going to bounce back up in a pretty violent fashion. Now we've already got that bounce. Now what we want to see is continuation, which again would be obviously had above about 10,500 or 10,550-ish region on just a tick high. I don't need to see if close above there, but even just a tick above there would probably be good enough. Or if we could get a 4-hour dildo closing above about 10, what is this area right here? About 10,400. So I'd tell you a little bit earlier, I suppose. Anyway, so we've gotten the easy part of that move, and yes, technically, we do have a golden cross in, and while that does matter, I don't put all that much weight on it in the same way that I would on an exponential moving average cross. And we can just kind of, I'm sure that there's gonna be people who disagree with me on this one, and that's completely fine. But you can backtest it for yourself and make your own decisions. Getting the golden cross right in over here. Or sorry, let's actually do a little bit of a deep dive onto this, because I do want to accurately represent my thoughts. So we're gonna be looking at both the exponential moving average cross and the simple moving average cross. The exponential relayed by the more vibrant green and purple moving averages, and the simple is going to be the more deathly pale looking green and the white simple moving average crosses right there. And you do see that the exponential moving average cross told you to get long much sooner rather than the simple moving average cross, which is to be expected in a healthy market, as your exponentials are going to be more reactive to current price action. So they're going to tell you usually in advance. Before that, we do see that simple moving average had a death cross right over here on this major massive move up. You actually don't see the same thing on exponentials until right around here. Both of those pretty bad entries if you would have taken them blindly. Now another one right in over here, kind of coming in the same area. I would say that the exponentials time this move a little bit better, but both of them kind of coming in the same area. There's not too much of a difference. And then the only times before that were, we had a death cross right here. That one, again, a bad timing of price action for both, but get some momentum pretty damn well. And going back further than that, we do see that they both got the last market cycle pretty damn well as well. A one-off on the simple moving average crosses right here. We got a golden cross when it was a full-on bull trap, but that was only the simples. The exponentials did not. And then back on over here, the exponentials giving a little bit of a bull trap as well. signal to the upside. However, simple is getting it even worse a little bit later, giving you a long signal right on over here in this consolidation, and that was quite literally the top of that bull trap. So I would say that exponentials kind of do have a better efficacy over time, and that's why I put more emphasis on them. And more importantly, what you want to see is you want to see them both getting the same crosses around the same time frames. That's usually when you're going to see the best efficacy of those crosses to begin with. So I do like that read overall. Just wanted to show that that's why I haven't really been talking about it, because we already got the exponential moving average cross, and I put more weight on that. And what I should have noticed was the test down to the 30 simple, which was also around the 21 exponential moving average on the on daily right and over here as well. So both kind of operating in the same fashion, and that was a very, 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 very nice area to be a buyer. Anyways, as it stands right now, we do see that 12-hour Stokes are officially crossing back up to the upside. I really, really like this, not for anything else other than just the fact that blindly trading the 12-hour Stokes have been phenomenally successful for the last year and a half, maybe even going on 2 years now. Pretty damn impressive. So crossing back up from this region is more or less good, and I would say that the 12-hour chart accurately represents the ranges pretty damn well as well. If you'd like to just turn off this video after this next statement, I could pretty much synthesize everything down. If our creative director is listening right now, then this would be the time to be clipping Twitter videos. And essentially what the 12-hour is showing us is that yes, very, 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 very likely we actually do break out to the upside, but I'd really be waiting for that next either 4-hour dildo closure above 10,400 or a tick above 10,500, 10,550, depending upon which exchange you're looking at and which high that you're using on what is a stamp. Yeah, stamp high is 10,550 cents exactly to the T, or a 4-hour dildo closure again above about 10,400. If one of those two things happens, I would immediately target a move towards about 10,700, and very, very likely that gets extended to all the way to like 10,900 or really realistically 11,000. I don't really see any real reason for Bitcoin to stop at around 10,700, maybe short-term pullback there, but ultimately I do think that it'd just find its way, it would float its way up to about 11,000 bucks, within the next few days if that were to happen. Now, by the same token, the short-term risk area is anywhere below about 10,000 bucks on at the very least a 2-hour dildo closure, although I would like to see a 4-hour. If that were to happen, I would say that we are very, 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 very likely to come all the way back down to about 9,700-ish, 9,750-ish region, and then that's gonna be a little bit scary. But again, I wouldn't even really get I would look for that $200, $300 move lower, but I wouldn't necessarily get macro bearish. Again, my areas for getting macro bearish have been unchanged for the last 3 weeks, anywhere below 9,550 to 9,600 on a higher time frame closure, 12-hour, nothing less. Would very likely make me not just like bearish long term, but bearish macro, looking for a move down to at the very least 9,200, probably bounce there. But ultimately, I don't think that we'd stop there. I think that we'd come all the way down to like the mid 8,000s most likely. But anyways, that's far and away. I'm actually not really looking for that to happen. I am more or less still angled towards the upside here, and we can look at probabilities in just a second. But let's go back down and actually redo this chart, perhaps even on. I want to do a completely fresh chart right around here with only the critical areas that I want to be concerned with, and we can do again 10,400 right there. I do want to mark off just 10, the high of this guy right around here. And then of course to the downside, the more preliminary area coming in right around about 10,000 bucks. And if that area does let way, I would be looking for a move back down to this pocket down here, somewhere between about 97.50 and 97 even. And those are the two big ones for me. So we'll mark off the areas that actually resolve this whole consolidation right around here in the blue boxes. So we'll have this guy right there and that guy right there. Nicely done. And what else can we say on top of that? Well, now we can go look at the expected moves chart and see what the probabilities are with regards to historical volatility percentile, and bringing it out right on over here. What do we see? The daily volatility has expanded quite a bit, so it's actually not all that helpful right now, unfortunately. We are seeing the top side of the first deviation coming in actually right around that 10,400-ish number. So it would say that it's less than a 16% chance that we actually do break out the top side today. And to the downside, first deviation coming in right around 9,900. So that actually is showing that we do have a considerable probability to actually break that critical $10,000 number, which I do think would actually open this back down, and we probably find ourselves back down to about 9,700-ish region in the next, a day or two after that. But we can go down to a 12-hour, which I do think actually gets these probabilities a little bit better. At least in my experience, I've seen seen it operate and have more efficacy on this time frame, as it usually gets around the daily to close, especially when I record my videos a little bit later. And let me just make sure that I'm actually recording. I am recording, and the microphone's working, so that's great. Anyways, top set of the first deviation coming in right around 10,350, which on a 12-hour close, we actually above there would also count as a resolution to the upside, either a 4-hour above about 10,400 or a 12-hour above about 10,350. You know, you can kind of see that they're probably going to happen at the same time if it does happen. By the same token, to the downside, 99.20 is the bottom side of our first deviation here, so it is actually still within the probabilities that we do test the downside again, and again breaking below 10,000, which at this price point would be, you know, within about 30% chance to happen in the next 12 hours. Well, that actually technically is more likely as it is right now. So I do think that that's worthwhile to be speaking about, just because, well, I mean, math is math at the end of the day. Can't really argue with math, unfortunately. I mean, you can argue with math, but usually end up broke, which is the problem with math. Anyways, looking at this right here, I really like the weekly response overall. We're about to get a cross of the red 10 symbol to the upside of the yellow 21 exponential moving average. And what I want to show right now is that usually when this cross happens during a period of consolidation, a phase of consolidation on a weekly, that is more or less, well, gonna essentially extend the trend in that direction. So in this case, we got a red 10 symbol flirting with the cross of the yellow 21 to the upside. If that does happen, that's a lower period getting above a higher period, and intuitively you likely know that that means that the trend is strengthening to the upside. And let's just kind of see how this has operated in the past during similar situations perhaps as well. So when price action is consolidating right here and getting rejected from getting a higher high, by the way, and we get the bearish cross of this, oh fuck, that's a massive girthy red dildo to the downside, about 28% in your face over the next few weeks. Pretty damn bad, but let's go see what happens in an opposite case. You have a nice consolidation right on over here, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, get the bullish cross of these, and then ouch, those girthy green dildos are stuck so far at my bearish bunghole that holy shit, that's another 169%. Really good number. Great, man, fucking great. Anyway, same thing right on over here. Bitcoin consolidating to the downside, gets the bearish cross all the way down. Absolutely catastrophic for Bitcoin boolas there. And before that, we basically get the more bullish cross of these two during this consolidation phase right on over here. You kind of almost even come all the way down to test the red 10 simple, and after that, it doesn't even unravel itself until 20,000 bucks is put in at the high. Other than that, we do have a one-off example of it not working right here and right here and right here during more long-form consolidations, to be fair. But it's, you know, of course it's not infallible, but I do like the way that this is operating as it is. Now let's throw back on the Troll Band, something that we've been paying attention to, especially on CMEs for the last couple weeks. And what do you know? The top side of the Troll Band still pushing back on price action on that 10,400-ish number. We did get all the way up there on yesterday's tick exactly to meet it, actually. Sorry, hold on, let me confirm. No, we came about 50, 60 bucks shy of that, but that's okay. More importantly, what I keep an eye on coming into this this weekly close, which is only about 2 days away for CMEs, is can Bitcoin close either around the top side of the of the top Troll Band, or can it actually close above? If it does both, if it closes above, obviously that's very bullish and would set us up not just for a push to 11,000, but probably 11,500, 12,000 after that. By the same token, if it closes even at the top, I do think I would consider that more or less bullish, but need to see continuation coming into next week. And while I dislike making timing statements, I do feel very strongly about that. Continuation would have to happen on next week, otherwise it'd be very suspect in potentially putting in some sort of a local top here. By the same token, I would only consider this a major high if and only if, again, 9,600 is broken to the downside, and then we could talk about moves all the way down to about 85, 8,600-ish region. What's more important than that is, remember, we actually do have an inverted head and shoulders on CMEs right here now, don't we? And we've been talking about this for the last 3-4 weeks now, and it's still very much valid. And the reason why it's valid is because we're still above the broken neckline. And where is that neckline coming in? 9,600. And relating to our discussion earlier about swing failure patterns, or just patterns failing to meet their intended target, as long as Bitcoin remains above that pivot point, there's there's no real threat of like long-term downside in the way that I look at it. Now, if we break that area, I would expect some long-term threat to the downside, at the very least mid 8,000s, and probably there's going to be bounce along the way, and then we kind of have to come back and reassess after that. But as it stands right now, I do think that things are more or less good. I do think that things are more or less fine here, and I stick with what I've been saying for the last week. I stick with what I've been saying for like the last few years, ever since I started doing these videos, or the last 2 years almost now, 2-year anniversary coming up, by the way. And I don't trust weekend price action. It is contrary to the week's direction, and whatever price action you see happen on a weekend typically gets reverted during the actual trading week. I know that statement seems to piss off a lot of people. I don't know why. Apparently it makes me sound like some sort of an arrogant American, which maybe I probably am. But my point is that that's just what I've noticed. I'm not saying that because I don't think that Asia matters. I'm not saying that because I don't think other big countries matter or anything like that, or whatever it might be. I don't think it matters. I think it just matters the fact that the most legitimate and formalized exchanges for now exist on in traditional markets, in CME, one of the biggest, baddest exchanges, one of the most not notorious, actually one of the most well-regarded, well-respected exchanges, CMEs. They're typically going to run price action, and over the weekend, usually just time to liquidate the over-leveraged players, both the upside and the downside, usually contrary to the week's direction, to the week's trend, essentially. So that's what I'm talking about right now, and of course, this inverted head and shoulders, I forgot to mention, does have a nice measured move all the way up towards, what do you know, fucking 11,500 to 12,000 bucks in this blue box territory right on over here. And that sounds a little bit crazy to me now, doesn't it? Because isn't that also exactly where Bitcoin's found all of its tops ever since February 2018, coming in right on over here at 12,000, double top a couple times, and then again more recently in June, July, and August, all the same, all providing the impetus for major, massive rejections. And if we even take this one step further, what happens if we throw a volume profile on this bitch? Oh, what do you know? Major change behaviors anywhere above this region, right? You do see that volume profile get so goddamn thin over here that it is just it's not even, we can't really even relate the current price action of what to expect right on over here, because there's really no history to go off of. You're going to see Bitcoin get like 5 degrees, 10 degrees more volatile, essentially, within that region. It's going to be zipping and zapping all the way goddamn through. And right now it already feels like it's pretty fucking volatile. So that's what I'd be saying about that. But hey, that's still well and far away. And that's really all I have to say about that. While we are here on the weekly, I think that it is going to be important to talk about the weekly momentum oscillators, of which we still see weekly Stokes still headed north, still getting deep inside that bullish control zone, which I do like, which has accurately called a lot of our bullish moves in the past. Anytime that we've been in the bullish control zone anywhere above this region right here, those are your long-term bull mark, or somewhat long-term in some cases. We have this one starting in end of March or April 2019, going all the way and getting kicked out until August. Wait, that sounds strange. That's all the way running over here. This whole move right here to here, from 4,000 all the way to like 14,000, that we were holding on to that territory during that time. Going back a little bit further, this was all of like 2016 to 2018 in the bullish control zone, and in the bearish control zone, obviously down around here in 2018, of course. Anyways, looking at weekly RSI. Okay, now we're starting to get something that's very interesting, right? Weekly RSI using the blue box territory, not as support. We did actually officially come down and test it the other day when Bitcoin was around like 9,600 or below 9,600 in this region. We actually did test around the blue box territory in the 56 marker. But as you can see, I do want to see a confirmed close in that region before I kind of look at that as, a long-term play perhaps. But nonetheless, this is really important price action to me right here, or RSI activity to me right here, because not only are we going to drag the exponential above or into the blue box territory, which is going to provide support for it, which has accurately gotten all of our bullish markets in the past and bearish markets by that point as well. But I would be looking at this as a higher high as well, just continuing the trend up and onwards above our last kind of like swing high right around here, which is constructive behavior. It looks to me like we kind of retested it, and probably gunning for the bullish control zone, at which point I would be expecting another pullback in that region. And at some point in time, yes, I do think that we're going to come back down and base around this blue box territory, just like you saw all throughout 2015. 2015 to 2018. All these were phenomenal buys. I mean, look at this area right here. This is buying this area right here. This is buying this area right here. This is buying this area right here again. And right here, I mean, all of these major massive downs, which were just phenomenally timed entries, just based off the weekly RSI and its relationship to this blue box territory. So, I do think that at some point in time we will come back down and test there, and I do think that that's an area where I'd be interested in a long-term position, perhaps. Who knows how long that takes, but I'm happy to wait, and that's really all I have to say about that. Anyways, okay, cool. So we had traditional markets trading yesterday, so we can go briefly check them out for a second. We got SPY right on over here. Wow, looking new all-time high. Or actually, we don't have new all-time highs yesterday, but once again, we did get the pull. I actually, no, I didn't talk about this yesterday. We spoke about this on Twitch, where I said I was looking for a pullback here down to about 335. We got that, but now I'm not so sure anymore. Overall, I'd be bullish on it. Long term, I'm bullish on it. Short term, I'd probably be bullish on it as well. Actually, I don't really have anything like profound to say about this. Not that I ever say anything profound, but sometimes it sounds profound to myself, which makes me feel good. Anyways, my point is that as long as it's above about $334.50. I'm both short-term, medium, and long-term bullish. If we lost 335, I'd be short-term looking for a move back down to like 331-ish region. But other than that, I would still be long-term, medium, and long-term bullish. There's absolutely nothing bearish about the monthly chart here at all whatsoever. Do we even have bearish divergences forming here? I mean, probably a lot of people are going to call this bearish divergence. It kind of is, but at the end of the day, very rarely do I see bearish divergence form like that. I would actually be expecting another try to the upside, and it's going to completely undo something like that, because we'll have continuation rather than a local top confirmed. I think that's a little bit more likely here. Anyways, looking at the lower term time frames, I do think it's going to pop back up here to open up the day. Let's go check out gold really quick. Oh, what do you know? What do you fucking know? Getting the breakout yesterday, I feel quite proud about this one as well. I feel very arrogant today. No, I don't want to come off like that. That's not my intention. It's just, it is a little bit vindicating when a lot of people love to just absolutely destroy me in the fucking comments, and then just wait a few days. Just wait a few days, my friends. Just wait a few days. No, of course not. Statistical, technical analysis is always just statistical, probability that works out in my favor over time. It doesn't mean that I'm always gonna be right. I'm certainly gonna be wrong all the time. And if you've been in this channel long enough, you've seen me be wrong so many fucking times, like painfully, embarrassingly wrong. And that will certainly happen again, no doubt about it. But this one, I still feel quite strongly about reaching up towards 1630-ish region. We just what's it called? What's the word that I'm fucking looking for right now? I can't speak is what I can't do. If we got this ascending triangle breaking out to the upside and measure move pointed up all the way towards 1630. So yes, I do think that it's going to head up towards there. Longer term, I do think that it has more. I'm both short, medium, and long-term bullish on this one, as I have been for a while. I know a lot of people are really bearish in this region right here. I stand by what I said, that was not the time to be bearish. Perhaps it does, perhaps we do get like a longer-term pullback somewhere around like 1700 or 1750, but I don't really see too much stopping it from those areas long term. Let's go check out some shitcoins, see how they're doing. We got Mr. Buterol, the holy jewel of this market right now. Mr. Buterol closing well above the blue box territory. I did say yesterday I was looking for a move back up to the prior high at around 287, 288. We got that move, and to me, it looks like it's setting up for continuation here. I do think that this one's going to get another leg up. It may get another wick down to like 270-ish region, but I do think that would be a buy, and I do think that the next target will be met somewhere around like 310 to 315 in the coming weeks, if not sooner. Weekly looks very, 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 very strong to me, and I'd still be sticking with that target of like maybe more like 305 to 315 actually, rather than 315 and 310. Maybe like 305 to 310-ish region. But overall, I do like Mr. Buterol's chart longer term. I think it looks more or less good. Let's go check out Litecoin. And sorry, I would stay bullish on this one again, as long as it's closing at the very least 4-hour dildos above 270. As long as it's above 270, very, 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 very healthy. Litecoin, what's Litecoin looking like? Kind of same thing going on right around here. Litecoin doesn't really seem to be leading to me. It seems to me that actually Mr. Buterin is leading, and then Bitcoin's kind of like 1B, and then we got the rest of the market kind of following after that in varying degrees of strength. Looking at Mrs. Litecoin right around here, I do think it's going to get another pop back up to test around the prior high, like 81, 82 bucks. But it's really going to be likely telegraphed by the next move in Ethereum and in Bitcoin. I'm saying a lot. That must be really annoying. I do apologize, but I don't know what's going on with my speech today, man. I think I drank a little bit too much coffee and probably didn't get enough sleep last night, but that's okay. Anyways, longer term, I do still feel like this measure move up here towards about 91 to 93 bucks is very much active, very much valid, coming in from our lows, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, right around here. I think this is more accurate on a weekly, and more importantly, on the weekly, you do see that all major movement averages starting to unfuck themselves a little bit, which I do like as well. So yeah, and kind of like the point of invalidation for this one to the downside would similarly to Bitcoin below like 10,000. I would say the shorter term timeframes are a little bit wrecked here. If 75.5 bucks gets closed below on like a 2 hour or a 4 hour dodo, and then I look for another move back down here towards 72 and a half dollars. And probably another bounce there, and then likely whatever Bitcoin does, this one's going to follow. We can go check out some of the other top ones. What else do we have? Ripples. How we doing, Mr. Ripples? How you doing, Mr. Ripples? Oh, you're not looking as strong as the rest, but same sort of thing here. I do think that is going to eventually just follow the rest of the market, probably work its way back up to 32 cents. The weekly did have a pretty atrocious close, but it does look to me like I would be very, 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 very bullish on this one long term. If we can get that next close back above about 31.5 to 32 cents here, the reason being is that would put us back above the absolute area of Thackeray, that white 200 moving average, which to me is holding back this whole kind of consolidation phase right here, and anywhere above that region, especially on a weekly dodo closure, is going to open up the doors for really very likely a move back into this region, at the very least 40 cents, most likely like 50 cents, most likely half a buck. Momentum oscillators here are more or less healthy as they stand. However, that is only coming off the back if Mr. Ripples can close above 31.5, 32 cents by weekend's close. Daily, kind of same thing as we see on the other ones. That same 10,000 level akin on Bitcoin would be about 28.5 cents on Ripples. If that area does get destroyed, I'd look for a full move back down to like 26 cents down around here. So right now it is kind of under a little bit of pressure, but with the way that kind of momentum oscillators are operating and the way that historical volatility percentile is absolutely redlined here, I'd actually look for a phase of contraction, which in this case, if you do see another leg up, especially above yesterday's high at 30 cents, that's going to be more or less a constructive consolidation within this region. I'd look for it to operate in a range between about 33.5 to where we kind of are right now at about 28.5 cents, and that would be, again, the bias would be on the upside there, as long as it holds that range essentially. What else we want to look at? EOS. I think EOS is always a fun one just because it sometimes does something different, and I do think that this one's getting ready for a move back up to like 490. 485 to 490-ish region, short term, same sort of thing here. As long as it maintains above 435 region, I'm not bearish on it. If it loses 435, then yep, we can talk about a move back down to like 390-ish region, and maybe lower than that. But I don't think that's what's going on here. I think that this one is also more on the healthy side, but most likely going to follow whatever Bitcoin does, of course. So if Bitcoin does fail here, you're going to see probably everything fail. If it does not fail here, then you're probably going to see everything succeed and work its way onto the fucking moon. Anyways, looking at BSV, I know that a lot of people actually are really interested in this, which fair enough. Looking to me, this one's actually an easier chart to read, funnily enough. As long as it remains above this $255 pivot, I'm not bearish. Now, if it does lose 250, or what is this area right here? Yeah, 256.5. If it does even tick just below that region, yes, I would look for a move all the way back down to like 175. It would look very bad, but I don't think that's what's going on here. I think that this one's actually constructive. We are making some variation of an ascending triangle, and I do think that that's going to be resolved to the upside very, 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 very likely, and probably going to take a little bit of time here. Maybe breaks like around the end of the month, but we could target a move up towards, I think, like $550 if that does get resolved, which would be considered resolved to the upside if we get a daily dildo closure or even just a 4-hour closure above about 420, which is also a great number. So yeah, whichever one happens first, but I would put the probabilities on the upside here just because, well, at the end of the day, it is a bullish reaccumulation formation. I mean, we could also put this in the expected moves chart, but the thing is that it won't help all that much right now because I wouldn't expect a breakout to the upside or the downside for like another week or so in this one, regardless of whether you're bullish or bearish. So it's only going to really show us the probabilities for one day. We could do it further out, but it's not going to have as much efficacy, unfortunately, once we go more than like 24 hours out. What else can we look at? Yeah, that's pretty much it for altcoins that I want to look at. Maybe Monero really quick, $85. See how this one's acting. Is this one strong or weak, or looks about the same as everything else, neither strong nor weak. Does kind of look a little bit to me like it does want to come back down to 82 and $82.50, but same thing here as you see on Bitcoin. I'm not really bearish in this one as long as it's closing 4-hour dildos above $82, especially, and likely going to follow the rest of the market. If it does want to take a leg up, I'd be looking for a move towards about 91.5 or 91.25. And overall, the weekly mostly confirming a change of behavior, getting that first open and closure above the white 200 simple, which I really like. So consolidating at a high level, typically a good thing, and I would say that as long as we're closing weekly deltas above $84, I look at this as likely to spend a little bit of time, maybe gliding sideways here, but overall that would be constructive again as well. Yeah, the lower time frames do make me think it actually takes a step down to $82, but I do think that it'd bounce there as well. So fair enough. Anyways, man, how long have we been doing this? Oh my God, it's already been 40 minutes. Holy shit. Let me get back on a Bitcoin right over here and let's see what we have. So to wrap up Bitcoin, to get all these thoughts onto just like a few sentences, what I can say about Bitcoin, and let's actually throw back on all major moving averages. I'm short-term, medium-term bullish on Bitcoin as long as we remain above about $10,000. I don't really have a strong opinion on whether it kind of takes it out to the upside here or not. We do see that momentum oscillators on lower time frames are actually starting to get a little bit tired, and we actually do see hidden bearish divergence forming as well, coming in from all of our local highs right here. We are making higher highs on RSI, but lower highs on price action thus far. So it is a little bit of a ticking time bomb. If we fail to get continuation, probably in these next couple of days, I would look for it to probably come back down actually all the way to 98, 97-ish region, back down around here. But again, that's not a death sentence. The death sentence, that's like a bad term. It implies the wrong thing. But the real problems from the macro perspective are below that critical $9,600 number, and the way that historic volatility percentile is acting right now, we are contracting. So I do look at this as more or less likely to kind of just fill out the range overall. I would get obviously bullish above 10,400 on a 4-hour delta closure, or a 12-hour above 10,350. In short term, $10,000 is the critical area right here. That doesn't really say anything for the macro though, but would likely imply a test back down to about 9750-ish region, give or take $50, we'll call it. And then below about 9700. Again, not necessarily a death sentence, but it will bring us to the next major macro level, which is again about 9550 to 9600. At that point, if things actually do break below there, even on like a medium term time frame, I would get overall bearish from moves down and below 9,000, probably bounce at 9200. Probably bounce to like 8,800 as well, but do you think ultimately lower? So as it stands right now, short term on Bitcoin, I don't really have a strong opinion. I don't really have a strong opinion on short term on Bitcoin right here. I only have a strong opinion on this blue box right here, and this blue box right here, and also this level right here, and also this level right here, to be fair as well. But other than that, it's just a game of levels here. Like good old Avicii, shout out, RIP. And with all of that said, I think it's time for me to sign off. I actually didn't do a good job of looking at historical volatility percentile, but I do want to quickly go through the rounds just while we are here. Hourly is contracting. Okay, interesting. Bi-hourly is also contracting. 3-hour is contracting. 4-hour contracting over the long period of time. But these aren't going to get the big these aren't going to get the big bad move. We really want to be looking at like a 12-hour daily. And what do we see here? We do see that 12 hours actually expanding still. Daily, funnily enough, still kind of meeting this trend line. So I don't know if I put much weight on that. You know what? I don't. Let's go back to the 2-day. That's a big one that I've been kind of keeping an eye on. I do think that we're going to see a spike in 2-day volatility relatively soon. I mean, this is so fucking low. It really doesn't get this low that many times in the history of Bitcoin without having a major pop. So that makes me think we get a pop within the next week and a half. Big move. Very likely big move. Higher time frames all look fine to me. Yeah. Yeah, if I had to call it here, I'd probably be looking for upside, but I'm not too married to like the very, very low time frames right now. I think the levels that are kind of implied are pretty damn in there. To me, it probably looks like we test it. To me, it looks like we test 10,400 before we try any downside, really. So yeah, that's what I'll leave you off with. I'll be back on tomorrow morning with some more video analysis and some more Twitch analysis as well as some gaming action. And with that said, want to wish you well. Take care, and until next time.